Okay. All right. So what's I think there was I think it was Shreya who asked the question, right? Hey, these things are very different, right? When I talk about singular attribution as opposed to some other attribution, they don't even seem like the same thing. They seem very opaque and black box. Well, that's the point here. It is very heterogeneous, right? The attribution space is super heterogeneous today. If you look at this example, if you take linear TV, right? If you take Roku, if you take TikTok, they all have different data scope, right? They all have perfect visibility to the silo that they work in and zero visibility to the space of all the other impressions that other platforms may have served. If you take your own data, your UTM data, your own web analytics data, you have perfect visibility to the people who came to your site, your property, visited your property, but we have limited or no visibility to what happened elsewhere, right? Now, if you think about tracking, this is all media channels, right? We talked about media channels and how what kind of visibility you have. You take about sales channels. Think about this area here, like just if you explore this area and you look at it across various industries. If you talk about DTC, you have very strong trackability for the conversion. If you talk about retail, not so much, right? Actually, you may have some trackability if people give you their email or phone number when they transact with you. Call center, very strong. Third-party e-commerce, like, if you talk about Amazon gives you almost no data, right? And third-party retail, in some cases, you may have data. You may have some syndicated data and whatnot, still not very strong, right? So the tracking between media channels and sales channels, there is a lot of heterogeneity. It's not like you cannot take one brush and just paint it across the board. There is significant variability, right? Now, this is the point that Shreya was making, right? It's kind of like black box. Now, it feels black box because everybody has their own approach for attribution. If you take iSpot has panel data, they do IP-based attribution, they do probabilistic attribution. This is the iSpot attribution. If you take Roku, they have a strong first-party device graph. They probably use IP attribution. They use probably some data assets. They do probabilistic. So if you go down the path, everybody has the sauce. They have a sausage-making process that is different for even last-click attribution. So therefore, as I was talking about in class earlier, think of last-click attribution as their own currency, right? There's no way to unpack all of these and match them one-to-one without multipliers. It's like you need a currency exchange rate, right? You want an exchange rate, which is with multipliers. What you want to do if you're a brand or if you're an agency representing the brand is you want to basically have every platform provide their own attribution. Don't fight it. Let them do whatever they want to do. They want to do statistical adjustments, black box, white box, gray box, whatever box you want to use it. Take all your data assets, give me the best possible way to correlate an impression to a conversion. Say thank you, and then translate it to your currency using multipliers. The multipliers now become the currency translation mechanism to take all of that data, map it to your outcomes, and your metrics that you care about that you can present to finance. Okay. All right. Important thing, attribution is not causal. We talked about that. They're all correlational, and all causal methods are episodic, right? Whether it is incrementality testing or marketing mix modeling, they're all episodic, right? Incrementality testing are very easily, obviously episodic. You run a test. When you ran the test, you're going to get a read. Once you stop running the test, there's no more reads, right? So it's going to be like point in time estimates. Marketing mix modeling, even though it's a continuous process, it's not meaningful to run it every day or every month. Even a month probably okay, but almost senseless to do it every day. It's only meaningful to get reads on a quarterly basis, right? What you will find is that there are meaningful reads on a 3-month basis. So it's really episodic in many ways, right? And also what happens is that what you learn in class also is that it's an iterative process. Building marketing mix models is an iterative process. It's kind of a point of view of performance, and it'll evolve every time. You will change models significantly, and therefore every time you build a new generation of models, your understanding of channel efficiency will move. And therefore, it also becomes somewhat episodic in how you use it, right? So all causal approaches are by definition episodic, okay? And they're also not matching. If the approaches we use will not be one-to-one. The same approach, the way it works for Facebook won't work for Google. So there's meaningful channel-specific variations and nuances and idiosyncrasies that you have to apply to make that particular approach work for that particular channel, right? Now, it's all heterogeneous. So what am I saying here in all of these slides is that it is a pretty heterogeneous space, right? So what do you do? How do you solve for it? The answer is triangulation, right? We talked about that in a little bit. Now, there is a formal triangulation framework we'll teach in class. The idea is to bring together all these data sets in one way, and that in one framework, so you can compare UTM attribution to last click attribution to attribution to incrementality-based attribution. Put them all side by side, so you can use all of that to make better decisions, right? Focus really on the decisioning as opposed to the measurement. The measurement is going to vary. We accept that. We accept that there's going to be variations and uncertainty and differences in how a channel is being reported. But we're going to use all of the data to make one decision. And what is that decision, and how much confidence we have in that decision, and how do we get more confidence on that decision is what the entire space is about right now. And that approach is called triangulation. And we're going to teach that in class. Okay. All right, so before we jump in, so this is a very typical data infrastructure or measurement infrastructure and data forward brands. If I work with big, well-established brands who have invested a ton in measurement, what you will typically find is that they'll have strong in-house attribution infrastructure, right? They would have UTM tracking that is really tightened up over many, many years. They would actually use a lot of in-house attribution rules. They'll be like, well, if I see a radio spot, I'll give the radio spot precedence over my, something else because I'm doing that right now, right? They have all these nuanced rules that they're built into it, and that's kind of what the reporting generates typically, and that's what everybody's using to understand and report marketing's contribution business. Finance uses it, the execs use it, even though it's gotten squishy over many years, they use it. And as it's gotten squishy, they've introduced one or two lift tests. They've introduced media mix modeling. They probably bought multi-touch attribution, right? Now, all of this is going to the people together, and the users, the marketers, or the analysts are looking at it. They all look completely different, like how we talked about. So it's going to look somewhat like how you look here. You don't have this framework, except all these numbers all look very different, right? So they don't have the triangulation framework sitting on top of it. So it all looks different. The point of view and efficiency looks very different depending on whether you look at the in-house attribution, whether you look at the media mix model, whether you look at the multi-touch attribution or the one-off lift test you did. They all have different answers. And so it's kind of a analysis paralysis, right? Analysis paralysis is kind of a thing in the industry right now. There is too much data. There is data fatigue, and they don't know how to reconcile all of this to make decisions, which is how do you do that? Now, how do you do that is through a process called triangulation. And we're going to teach that in class, but if you want one slide as to what is triangulation, here is the slide for triangulation. Essentially, you take all the measurement approaches. Eli is going to teach post-purchase surveys, I think, next class, Wednesday. Incrementality testing, marketing mix modeling, the in-house attribution. You roll them all up into one triangulation layer, which is the multipliers matrix we talked about. You maintain a table of multipliers. That's the synthesized understanding of channel efficiency gets boiled down to one number as a multiplier. That multiplier is kind of how you use to then you take platform reporting or UTM reporting, run it through the multiplier matrix, and then you report that in your dashboards. When you do that, the dashboards now represent your best understanding of channel efficiency that you have. And that can be the way you have the discussion with your finance partners or your exec partners, or you can use it for your board reporting and whatnot, in a way that kind of like bridges business metrics to marketing metrics. Okay, is the real answer. Okay. Let me pause right there. I think there was somebody who had this question at some point. Was that, I think, Jennifer, you were talking about how do you actually have this conversation? Well, you want to end up here from, how you take, what is your path to end up here may be different than what other people have taken, but you might want to end up in this place where using multipliers to report all your channels. And that's kind of where you can stand behind it and say, well, there is no perfect understanding of marketing efficiency, but with all the information we have, we've synthesized it, we've triangulated it, and here is our best understanding of marketing efficiency. And here is what we're reporting as its contribution to business metrics, be it revenue or profit or, CAC or whatever it is.